Hey there, friends. Welcome to another opportunity to shut the door, close your office door, turn off your phone, do not disturb. This is an opportunity for you to do what is necessary for you to grow and expand, which is to take a moment to join us for professional development every single week, to join us for leadership development every single week. This is your time. This is what you deserve. And this is where you belong every week. So, this is an opportunity for us to talk about a timely topic. I talk about this all the time that we prepare in advance for our trainings um, with what's happening in the United States or globally with holidays, with elections, with things that we know have the potential. We don't know, but have the potential of impacting how you show up as a leader. And so today we are talking about the science of leading with gratitude. Again, another timely topic because in the United States, we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving this time next week. And usually around this time of year, because it's coming to an end, the year is coming to an end. And as we prepare to usher in a new year, we take time right now to reflect on what we've experienced, reflect on our relationships, reflect on our team members and their performance. We're reflecting on everything that's important to us as leaders, not only in our personal lives, but in our professional lives. And so it's a natural time. It's a natural end of a year, natural end of a cycle. And right now is the time to do this reflection that we as leaders must do. And I will share with you why it is so important. So, first, the brain loves closure. The brain loves a natural end. The brain will look for problems and solve it if you let it. That's if you let it. Then it'll find another problem and it'll solve it. So the brain doesn't like open ended questions, open ended issues, open ended challenges. The brain wants closure. The brain seeks the problem, finds the solution, and moves on to the next. Isn't that fascinating about our brain? If only we as humans, people, would adhere to the natural inheritance of the brain, wanting closure, wanting to keep moving forward, not wanting to look in the past. Let's find another problem and solve it, and let's keep moving forward. And so many of us out here in leadership, we tend to ruminate over things. Sometimes it's an argument or a misunderstanding with an employee. Sometimes it is an argument with our loved ones or a partner or spouse. And the brain wants to ruminate over those conversations. And this is where the leader says, well, I should have said this and I should have done that. And there you are ruminating, lamenting over what took place. But the brain's like, okay, human, you want this. You want to understand all these things, but I want closure. I want to find a way for us to find closure here. But our minds are stuck on the past and stuck on ruminating, lamenting over these events. And so I bring this up today because it's important that we talk about this idea that I've been playing with called focus versus observation or observing. Focus versus observing. So we as leaders observe what is the reality of things and people and circumstances, the facts, the statistics, what's reality. We're observing our team's performances decrease, team morale decrease, maybe a decline in motivation, maybe a decline in engagement. And here we are observing reality. And so we wind up frustrated and overwhelmed because we're focused on what is versus turning our attention and our brain and our mind over to focusing on what doesn't exist yet. Yet. This is where we use our foresight, the skill of visionary thinking and foresight. This is where we look into the future. And although the future is not here now, we are, as effective leaders, we're balancing what is reality, and what is yet to exist. So a great leader gets to be on this seesaw and gets to balance this out for themselves. But we have to observe first so that we can then know what to focus on. And this is all going to tie into gratitude in just a moment. So stick with me right here. So, what is can be frustrating, can be overwhelming, could be painful. And as I was reflecting myself on this past year, in the past 11 months, I couldn't help but think of reality. Well, this is what happened, Denise. We can't dispute reality. Here are the facts. Here, are endings to some relationships and business partnerships and other things. And that's reality. And so I had a choice to stay observing what was frustrating, reality, or focus on what doesn't exist yet and the opportunities that are ahead of me in my business and in my personal life. So we as leaders must look at both and understand I have to observe what's happening first so that I can better understand where I want to go in the future. Focus on what does not exist yet. And so focus versus observing, two verbs that we leaders must get very comfortable with, observing what is, but also focusing on what doesn't exist yet. And here's what's interesting about the human brain. It uses approximately 20% of the body's total energy consumption on a daily basis. 20% of the body's total energy consumption every single day. 20%. And here's what's also interesting. An average adult, uh, that equates to about 350 to 450 calories per day that the brain needs, that takes to generate power, to think, to solve for problems, to, yes, observe and focus on what does not exist yet. And so I bring this brain fact up because I want for you to spend the time that is necessary to take an observation. It's very important because this is where we learn about pattern recognition. This is where we get to develop the skills of pattern recognition. And we do that every day with our team members, even our family members. We know their patterns better than they do. We can predict their behaviors because of what we have observed in the workplace, in our communities, in our families. So that's necessary to do. But once you take those learnings, you take those reflections and then turn those into learnings, then we can focus on, well, how do we want to lead better? How do we want to lead our families? How do we want to lead our teams, our organizations? Because I know what exists now. It's reality. Can't escape it. It's in my face. But I want to use my brain energy to focus on the new way of leading, the new way of loving, the new way of being and existing, because I've taken the learnings from this observation. So focus and observing, two verbs that we must do often, as often as we can as leaders, but especially right now because we are in that natural state of ending the year and we are naturally wanting to reflect on the past and present. And then we are, because we're ushering in a new year, we're going to focus on the future. But we spend a great deal of time on the past and the present. And my plea to you today is to balance these two sides of your perspective so that we can better use and leverage our brain for creating the future that we want in our leadership practice and in our personal lives. Focus and observing, two important things that we must balance out. So here we are now, reflecting on the year that we've had, the teams that we have, the performance or lack thereof that we have had together. And now it's time for us to take those observations and take those learnings and adapt to the future that we want to create. And so, as I mentioned, this time of year is critical for me because I am observing, reflecting, capturing those learnings, and planning for 2025 or whatever year you're watching this. And what's interesting about those observations is that I was identifying some of the most painful reflections, some of the most painful moments and memories that are seared in my brain because of this year. A lot has happened in my personal and in my professional life. But on the other side of that coin are the joyful, loving, happy moments, the wonderful learnings that I want to take with me into the future. And yes, everything in between, because, life is a spectrum. And here we are experiencing so many different things, so many different challenges, whether it's a world war or a war between countries or a US election and its outcomes and the impact it will have on our communities, and also what's happening in the home front. So there are the external circumstances that we don't have much control over, but the internal circumstances, the home front, where we spend our most time raising our children, leading our teams, creating ripple effects in our communities and in our organizations. And so it's important that we again give balance, give equal time, equal brain energy time to the things you cannot control and the things that are right in your face every single day in the home front that you may have more control over than you think. And so as I was reflecting for myself, I took those learnings about myself, good, bad, or indifferent, learnings about others, good, bad, or indifferent. And after accepting these learnings, one very powerful emotion emerged, and that is the emotion of gratitude, being thankful. It's gratitude I believe, can only exist when one takes those learnings and turns them into a new way of existing, a new way of being, of becoming a better leader, a better parent, a better constituent, a better citizen of this world. And again, gratefulness can only exist when someone does take the time to take these reflections, turn them into learnings, and then use them to become better. Because what is the point of all this pain and suffering? What is the point of the joyful, happier moments? We want to take both the good and the bad moments, and we want to turn them into powerful learnings so that we become better, so that we evolve, so that we grow and expand. That's the goal of life. Isn't that the goal of what a leader, well, at least I think a leader's primarily motivated by growth and expansion. I would hope you are too. If you're watching this, you certainly are. And so we want to take gratefulness and we want to use it as we're focusing into the future. Yes, gratitude for the observations we're making, the learnings we're taking from reality, from what is. But we also want to use gratitude to create what doesn't exist yet. So focus and observing, two important actions that we must take, and especially right now, this time of year for all of us. And so this brings me to the science of leading with gratitude. Something that's come up a lot lately is my leadership clients finding time for daily or weekly, even gratitude moments. It's hard when they are very busy. It is hard when they're the breadwinners. It is hard when they're not only pursuing leadership excellence, but they're pursuing growth and development opportunities. These leaders that are in my private stewardship are exceptional humans. They have strong purpose. They know who they are. They have spent a great deal of time observing and focusing on what they do want. And something that's come up is I have forgotten how to show gratitude. because I am so busy and the team is so busy. And, there's just a lot of performance measurements we have yet to meet. It's almost the end of the fiscal year. And I, as a leader, am having a difficult time finding moments of gratitude. And so for some of these leaders, it was the discussion of what this looks like in the brain of an employee. When a leader shows gratitude because they've done the work of observing and taking those reflections and then focusing on how they're going to use it in the future, when the leader has done that work first and foremost, that is the most important thing that we must do as leaders. When the leader does this, then we can show up in our organization, amplifying our impact through gratitude. But leader, we have to do the work first. So as I was going through these studies and research, and yes, preparing to serve my clients and to serve you today, I couldn't help but think of these wonderful studies, lots of empirical research, great stuff from some of my, favorite leadership experts out here. And I always want to go back to the source. And I don't mean the reference source. I mean the source of those actions and belief systems and leadership philosophies. So you're telling me what the research study shows. You're telling me the impact that gratitude has on employee engagement and organizational commitment and performance, levels that have increased, and so many other amazing things that impact organizational wellness. But why aren't we talking about the leader and what the leader needs to do? Right. So, what I mean by what the leader needs to do is what is the leadership mindset? What is the mindset that that leader needs to have before they can go put all of these things into action? And even so, if a leader puts these things into action and they don't genuinely feel gratitude for their team, then their impact will fall short. It will not be genuine. So I always take the approach of leadership psychology, coaching psychology. We love organizational behavior around here. But my job to serve you, the leader, every single week is to talk to you specifically before you go put some of these practices into action. What's the point of these practical strategies if the leader doesn't have the mindset, if the leader doesn't have the energy? Because the leader is spending so much time observing and resenting what is and has not done the work, the psychology work, the mental work to use those learnings so we can focus on the future. And gratitude allows us to do that. So we have to do the work first. So I'm going to share with you some of these studies. But I want for you, as we're going through some of these examples, I want for you to think about, okay, so if I do this, then this study says that this should be the outcome. But what do I need? What do I need to believe? What do I need to value first? What work do I need to do so that I can put these strategies into practice and have a bigger, greater impact? This is how we simplify our leadership because so many of us leaders are taking so much action without meaningful intention, without purpose. And then we wind up why we're so burnt out. Well, because your mindset wasn't the first thing you worked on. You went and ran the race without actually training for the race. So as we're going through some of these examples, think about, well, what do I need to know? What do I need to believe? What values do I need to um, you know, be conscious of? What skills do I need to develop so that I can then better have a greater impact on my employees as I use these strategies? So, the science of leading with gratitude. I love this one study. Um, so, this study in particular talks about employees who feel valued. And when they feel valued, they are 20% more productive. Now, listen, as a leader, you should be very interested in this statistic, in this particular fact, because if you are a leader who was hired to solve problems and create results, with the team that you have under you, then you're going to want to leverage their productivity time. And so when you practice gratitude and when the employee genuinely feels that they are valued, then 20% increase in productivity is what you will see per individual. There's some statistics on team performance that I'll share with you in just a moment. Another statistic says 59% of employees say they have never had a boss who truly appreciates them. So let me ask you, leader, have you had a leader or a supervisor or a director show you that they truly appreciate you? Have you ever had that? Do you have that memory? Have you experienced that moment in your professional life? Because 59% of employees who were surveyed in this particular study said, I've never had a boss who truly appreciates me. Never had a boss. This is their perception, very valid perception that they have. I can tell you through my professional experience, I have never, well, let me take that back. I only had one leader who was a dean who believed in me, who was not easy on me, who challenged my mindset and challenged my self concept as a leader. Because of him, my leadership philosophy was turned upside down. And to me, I mean, he may not have ever said, I value you, but his actions and his behaviors told me I was highly valued in this leadership role. And so you may not be expressing thank yous explicitly, verbally to your teammates, but it's important that we show them gratitude. And I'm going to tell you why in a few minutes, because the impact of productivity is going to skyrocket. So if you're having problems with your team members right now, producing, being productive, meeting their performance measurements, meeting KPIs, then maybe, just maybe, gratitude could be a strategy that you implement in your leadership practice. So 53% of employees would stay longer at their company if they felt more appreciation for their work. That's over half. 53% of employees would stay longer at their company if they felt more appreciated for their work. Now, here's what's interesting. My focus in research has always been employee commitment and organizational engagement. Um, that has always been my focus in research. I want to help leaders engage their employees so that they are highly committed, engaged, and committed to the organization. That has always been my primary focus. And so I help the leader, which is why we serve the leader around here. We want to resource you and give you all the tools that you need so that you can then go and create highly committed, highly engaged employees who are loyal and who want to stay in this organization. And so when we get a study like this that tells us 53% of employees would stay longer, if only you showed them that their work is valued and that you appreciate their work, appreciation for their work, that's all they're asking for, they would certainly stay longer with you. Because turnover is not great. It's necessary because they get to self-select. A lot of these individuals get to self-select and they get to choose to work for you or not. And there's been some really great opportunities to weed out the employees that should not be under your stewardship. But there are times when you lose a high performer, when you lose a highly productive, caring, compassionate employee because you lacked showing gratitude or even a slight appreciation for their work. Those are the ones that hurt us the most because those are the ones that will take 2 to 3 people to replace their productivity. And so let's start thinking about if these statistics are true, then what do I need to do to begin to believe that gratitude can work for me and my team? What do I need to do? What values do I need to expose in my consciousness? What leadership philosophy do I need to adhere to or adapt to so that we can have better numbers in my department, in my organization? And so these studies were taken from a Harvard Business Review article, and another one was taken from Center for Creative Leadership. So we've got a lot of really great research on or statistics on uh, the the reason for gratitude in our leadership practice. Here's another one from Wharton School of Business. In a 2018 study showed that grateful leaders received 50% more output from employees compared to those who didn't express appreciation. So 50% more output from employees compared to those who didn't express appreciation. So gratitude. What do you need to believe? What do you need to feel? What do you need to observe and focus on to show gratitude in the workplace? So we have some other really strong data to support the science behind gratitude in your leadership practice. Um, Here is another study, and then we're going to go into some of the neuroscience. Um, Researchers at the University of Washington, so a 2017 study demonstrated organizations with structured gratitude programs showed 66% increase in employee engagement. So that is something I want for all of you out here. 40% reduction in safety incidents and 27% decrease in absenteeism. And so when we see an employee disengaged, and we talked a whole lot about quiet quitting during and shortly after the pandemic, and employees, yeah, not satisfied with their leaders. And the research that I've conducted shows that you have more influence than you think in whether the employee stays in that organization. So they may dislike the organization as a whole, and they may not believe in the mission or values of the CEO, but they will stay because of their relationship or perception of their relationship to their immediate supervisor. That's powerful. So when we're talking about quiet quitting back in the COVID time period, we saw absenteeism skyrocket. Of course, we saw attrition, we saw terminations, we saw more hostility in the workplace. We saw so many interesting behaviors from that were displayed from our workforce. And so when I read these studies and I look at the importance of gratitude, what a simple strategy that can turn into one of your greatest superpowers that will not only impact them individually, but will impact their well being, their commitment to the organization, their productivity, their performance levels. This is what we want as leaders. And if you're not interested in doing that in your leadership practice, then my question to you is, what would you rather have? Would you rather have hostile, disgruntled, dissatisfied, resentful employees who are calling in sick, who are talking badly about you, who are sharing how they feel about you to people outside of the organization and inside the organization? Or would you rather have an employee who shows up and produces, who is content to be there, maybe not ecstatic and is so happy to be under your leadership, but they're there because they have purpose and they know that their work is highly valued? What would you rather have? I'd rather have an employee who is ready to work, who's excited to be there, who wants to give their all, who just wants to be a part of a team, who wants to be seen and heard, who wants to be valued for their contributions. That's what I want. And that's the power I have as a leader and the power that you have as a leader. That's within your control. What can I do to actually impact them through gratitude? What is it that I need to believe? What do I need to know as we're going through this training together today? What do I need to know so that I can go and put this into practice? And so the neuroscience is incredible. So strong correlations between gratitude and neuroscience and workplace wellness, the impact of organizational wellness. So we've got a lot of studies too that I have found. One in positive psychology, which was really interesting, states gratitude activates the brain's reward center, releasing dopamine and serotonin. Dopamine and serotonin. So we have our own chemical factory in our brains. Is that not fantastic? And we leaders, although we don't have a lot of control, we have a lot of influence, however, and we can influence how an employee feels under our stewardship, under our direction, under our leadership. Because if we know the brain science, we know the neuroscience, we know what's being activated in the centers of the brain, and the neurochemicals that are being produced at the center of these particular parts of the brain, then why wouldn't we want to leverage that information? So we don't there's no manipulation here, there's no abuse of power. There's influence, and we influence them through our actions of gratitude, to showing them that their work is highly valued. And just a simple expression of thank you for your hard work. You've done really great this year. I've seen the growth in you. I can't wait to see what you bring in 2025. Simple words of encouragement, of appreciation will light up that brain like a Christmas tree, and the neurochemicals will come sliding into their bodies and like a roller coaster into their bodies. And serotonin and dopamine are some of the most incredible neurochemicals associated with positive emotions and improved moods. So when you express simply that you are grateful for one of your direct reports, for completing a project, for leading a project, for maybe mitigating a situation, when you've acknowledged them for their actions, what you can see is a shot of dopamine. So expressing gratitude will create a neural circuitry in their brain that releases this dopamine, because dopamine makes us feel good. Why don't we want our employees to feel good? Do we not think they're worthy enough to feel good? Shouldn't they want to feel? Shouldn't you try to influence, not control, because we can't control how they feel or think about us, but don't you want to be a catalyst for this, for happiness, for excitement, for purpose and alignment with this organization and your work in particular? Don't you want that for them? I mean, I know I want to feel good. And I think the reason why we don't focus on influencing our team members to feel good about their work and about their existence in the organization is because we don't feel good or happy about our existence in this organization. This is why this is important as we're going through this time together. What do I need to believe? What do I need to think so that I can be a better influence for my employees, so that I can support them in feeling appreciated and valued? What do I need to do? You have to do the work first. You have to do the work first. So, yeah, our employees are miserable. They are mirroring your neurons. That is a neuroscience term, and we've talked about that many times on these trainings. And that is they're reflecting your emotions, your behaviors, your moods and personalities. We spend so much time with our direct reports, they start mimicking us and our behaviors. So if the leader is resentful, bitter, unhappy, disgruntled, quiet quit on the team, then best believe your employees are mirroring the same emotions and the same attitudes. So if we know this is what's happening in the brain, when an employee hears that they are appreciated and valued, a shot of dopamine comes through. Neurochemical cascades into their brain, their bodies, and they are feeling good. Like, yeah, I'm appreciated. Yeah, okay. I'm going to work until This project is over today. I've been leaving early because I've been so annoyed with my teammates and my leader. But because my leader showed me some appreciation today in a team meeting in front of others or privately in a one-on-one meeting, I'm now going to stay here a little longer, make sure the quality of work is up to the standard that she wants. And I'm going to get this done because I don't want to fail her, them, or this team. So that's what the dopamine creates in an individual. I mean, just think about when someone said, I value you, I see you, I appreciate you. You're working so hard. I know it's hard and you're doing so incredibly well. What does that do to your brain? Do you get the shot of dopamine or do you just ignore it because you don't believe it, because you don't think you're worthy of it? So, how do you respond to feeling appreciation and gratitude from your supervisor? Maybe it's from your teammates, maybe it's from your direct reports. Are they showing you how grateful they are to have you in their professional lives? And if so, how do you respond to them? I hope it's yes, thank you. That's really great. That makes me feel really great. And while you're sharing how you feel about me, can I just take a moment to share how I feel about you? Your work has improved tremendously since I hired you a year and a half ago. I can't believe you come this far. You have so much agency. You are such a go-getter. I'm so impressed by you. So there's that mutual exchange of dopamine releasing in our brains. It's the best thing ever. And so something else that happens is another shot of serotonin. So serotonin. So when you write a small note, when you send a DM, when you send them a Teams message, something positive about their work, their brain releases serotonin. And serotonin enhances our moods, our willpower, our motivation. So you've got these two very powerful neurochemicals, dopamine and serotonin. And think of serotonin as the natural antidepressant that you get to create in your own neurology. That's what you're doing for them as well. So know that there are neurochemicals that are working in your favor when you express gratitude. And that's all I want for you to do is to think of ways to do that in your daily practice. Because if we know the neuroscience behind gratitude, then I do believe that you will be more than likely to incorporate some strategies in your leadership practice. Let let the brain work in your favor, right? Let your actions help influence how they think and feel in those moments of gratitude. And all you have to do is come to terms with, okay, I may not feel grateful right now. There's a lot going on in my life, a lot of personal things that are happening, a lot of professional things that are happening, but this is worth looking into. And I am worth doing this work. It's not going to be easy because I'm going to have to come to terms with some things. And I am worthy of this work. Because if I start feeling gratitude for these learnings and experiences and hardships, then I can focus on the future and focus on how I want to be a better leader for myself and my team. That's the goal here, leader. So, all these studies and what we know what happens in the brain when we show gratitude to our employees will not make a difference, will not make an impact if you don't believe. If you don't feel grateful or gratitude for where you are currently in your professional career, in your personal life, this is of no use to you if we don't look at you first. So these are important things to know. The studies are there's so many, and I was trying to pick some very specific ones regarding engagement and commitment because again that's my hyper focus in my research. And I went down a rabbit hole yet again on the research. But those are the things that you need to know. The numbers are in our favor. Gratitude, there's plenty of research that shows gratitude does impact your employees' performance levels, their commitment levels, their organizational commitment, their loyalty to the organization. They want to come and work for you because you showed them an ounce of appreciation. That's all that takes. Now, if you make this a routine and this becomes a regular, ritual or practice in your department, then you will see the long-term effect of gratitude. And there's plenty of research on that as well. So in 2016, in the issue of Wharton Healthcare Quarterly, they talked about gratitude. That when we activate these gratitude circuits in our brain, the stronger these neural pathways become, and the more likely your employee is going to recognize what's going right instead of what's going wrong in the workplace. And you can do the same for your brain. This is why on every one of my private coaching calls with my clients, we always begin with a win. A win. I want to know what your wins are before we talk about all these challenges. I am trying to help them train their brains to look for the gratitude, the appreciation of those hardships. Yes, when it's sunny and bright and lovely outside, we don't have a single ounce of complaint, right? Or a single ounce of resentment or regret. But when things get hard, and because we're leaders, more than likely there are lots of challenges. We then forget that there's the good in those learnings. And this is why I started our conversation with observing what is and taking those learnings and then using them to focus on what does not exist yet, because that's the gratitude that is going to fuel our actions to create the future that we want in our leadership practice and in our personal lives. So, this is why when I meet with my clients, the first thing out of their mouths is, I have a list of lots of wins. So the brain is now looking for those celebrations because we're going to have a lot of hardship. We're going to have a lot of challenges, but it is up to you to manage how you view those challenges. Are you going to take those learnings and focus on the future on how to make it better because of the learnings you're taking from these hardships? Or are you going to wallow and stay in the observation? No, leaders evolve, we grow, we progress. You can't stay the same. Now, listen, leadership is a dynamic field of study, which requires leaders to be dynamic, to evolve. That's what dynamics means. We're not static, we're not stagnant, we're not stuck. We take those observations, we turn them into learnings, we move into the future and focus on what it is we want to create because of those learnings. Make that pain be for a reason. Make the hardships, the challenges be for a reason. Don't let them go in vain. Don't let them be unimpactful. Use them to impact your life. And so, something that we can do as leaders, and this leads me now into some practical gratitude strategies, because sure, the neuroscience is there. Sure, there's plenty of studies on gratitude. Yep, all the science is there. But now let's put this into practice, because this is where we get to use our art, because we know the science. Remember, leadership is the art and science of leadership. Well, this is where you bring your art, you bring your authenticity, you bring your genuineness to the table. This is where you create strategies that work for you, that you can believe in, that you can implement because you are compelled to do this work. Because if you're not compelled and you don't believe in any of this, then it's not going to work for you. Don't put these strategies into play if you don't believe that this can work for you and your team. And the gratitude has to be genuine. This is why this work is important. So, like I do with my team, we and my private clients, we start with wins. Tell me something exciting. Get me excited. And that's what I always say, please, I want to get excited with you. Will you tell me what win you had today or this week? Share with me, compel me. I want to live in your shoes for just a moment. Not when it's, challenging or hard, but what'd you take from those hardships? What are those learnings, the AKA wins that you want to share today with me? That is the best feeling because I know the dopamine and the serotonin are being released in my brain when I hear my employee or even my client talk about their wins. Mirror neurons. I'm feeling what they're feeling. I'm seeing what they're seeing. I'm experiencing what they're experiencing, and I am feeling it all. And that is exciting. So, now what is genuine for you to do? Can you start team meetings with wins? Listen, and you can tell them there's plenty of challenges out here in this world, but guess what? I want to have some wins at the top of this time together because I love winning. So let's win together. Will you tell me what you're so excited about? That's how simple that can be. How about writing thank you notes? I read in one of these studies that a CEO, wrote 30,000 thank you notes. 30,000 thank you notes, which started a culture of gratitude in his organization. He said, every single one of these people are worth a handwritten note, and I'm going to write 30,000 thank you cards and tell them how much I appreciate them. So, from the person at the very top of the organization to the person who was last hired, he made sure everybody, through his handwritten thank you note, said, you are valued, you are welcome here, and we can't wait to grow together. What a thoughtful gesture. Now, 30,000 thank you notes. Some of you are like going, no, that's just impossible. I can barely do five. But you want me to do 30,000? No, I don't. But I want for you to start getting into the habit of writing thank you notes. It could be an email. It could be a Teams direct message. It could be a DM somewhere on LinkedIn, or maybe on their profile page on LinkedIn. It could be or tagging them on LinkedIn, where you can tell them, great job on this project. So and so just spearheaded this. And because of their contribution, we have increased productivity, or we have increased these performance levels by 10%, 15%. And so then that way the world gets to see that you value them. So think about how you can incorporate writing thank you notes. How about implementing a gratitude Friday ritual? A gratitude Friday ritual. So I think that could look like, Friday morning email to the team asking for everyone to share something that they're grateful for. And it could be something in their personal lives, something in their professional lives, or you can keep it just in the professional context. But it's nice for them to know that you do care about their well-being inside and outside of the organization. And so a simple email chain can begin Friday mornings. And so I think that would be a great start to personalizing your gratitude strategies. Now, what else could you incorporate? What feels right for you? What feels in alignment for you? For me, it's always starting my meetings with, what win am I celebrating you with? Because I'm in with you. So tell me what's good. What's good? And that's where we're not only getting the impact from the dopamine and serotonin release from their words, from their storytelling, from how they're expressing their gratitude, right? Because we're feeling that alongside them. But we're also training each other to focus, not spend time on the observation, although this is very important to do, but we're not going to spend all of our brain energy here. We want to use these learnings that we've observed so that we can focus our brains to what it is that we do want to create. And gratitude is going to fuel those actions, those motivations, those inspirations. Gratitude. Who would have thought? Gratitude has so much research that backs up the impact that we have on ourselves and our teammates. Probably one of the most understated, underappreciated superpower is gratitude. So share with me in the comments some of your practical gratitude strategies that you can buy into, that you are compelled to do. Make it a ritual. Make it a ritual. And a ritual is, you make a decision once, and it you never have to think about it again. It is now set on the calendar, and there's non-negotiables there. You will send that email out, maybe gratitude Friday morning email, or maybe it's every single start of every single meeting. You're asking for wins from your teammates. Now, something that I do personally that is and no one else gets to see, and I don't and my calendar my planner that I created for my leadership clients is sitting over here, so I don't have it within reach, but in that planner, I have daily reflections. I not only have monthly, weekly, post-month, post 90-day reflections, but every single day I get to fill in a box that I created so that I can be intentional in what I'm reflecting from my learnings of that day. And they always end with what I'm grateful for, what I appreciate the most. And by the way, I take time to appreciate my work as well. I'm not always focused outside of me. I have to focus on the goodness and the good things that I brought to the organization today, to my clients today. I have to acknowledge that so that I also start programming my neurology to find gratitude for the work that I do in this world, for the service that I provide my clients, how I serve you all on a weekly basis. I have to remind myself this is filling my heart. This is filling my purpose because I'm focused on what I want to create in this community of leaders. So make regular reflection a priority for your personal practice. Journaling is important to do. A simple few sentences, a paragraph on what you're feeling grateful for. How about some mindful appreciation work, exercises? What would that look like for you? Does that look like meditation? Does that look like prayer? Does that look like self-hypnosis? I did a self-hypnosis session this morning. I just plug in my earbuds after I pray, of course. Prayer is always first, and then I do some self-hypnosis depending on what it is that I'm needing a little extra edge on. Yeah? Like I mean, I'm leveraging my brain, my friends, every single day, and I do that with mindful appreciation exercises. And self hypnosis is one of those things that I use. And so start thinking about how you're going to express appreciation in the team, in the department, in the organization, but then also your personal practice of gratitude and appreciation is, I think, where you need to start first. So, why don't we wrap up our time together today? I just want to remind you one last thing. And I'm going to bring it right back to where we started. Observing versus focusing. Two verbs, two actions that we leaders must take. And right now is the time to reflect on these things because it's the natural, inherent end of a year. And we are spending time reflecting on what is and the learnings we're taking from what is and what we have observed because we're about to usher in a new year. And we want to focus on what we're going to bring into the new year because of these great learnings. And the fuel that brings all this together is the fuel of gratitude. So when you are taking a moment to observe what is the reality of things, which may be painful for some of us, may be hurtful for some of us, may be joyful in other circumstances, all of those learnings from those observations, that's where we spend time finding gratitude for those learnings because we then get to focus on what it is we want to create in 2025. So, dear leaders, I hope you found today's session helpful. I know you did because gratitude has plenty of research to back it up. And this is a superpower. It's a core value, it's a skill, it's a superpower for sure that is underestimated, underrated, underused. And that we can start practicing today. And so use the current of the energy of the end of the year to do this work so that you can serve yourself and, of course, serve your people. All right, leaders, thank you so very much for your time today. Drop your questions and your comments. Would love to hear from you and how you are incorporating your personal gratitude strategies. I'll see you all very soon. Take care.